Grow up. Yeah, you're fine.
My mom threw me out the window. Here's the first day of school.
I started school when I was 4 because my mom was over it. My mom was like, no, you're old enough. I went to school. I was 4 years old in kindergarten.
All your way through.
Oh, I didn't struggle, honey. I still smoke that shit. She's like, you're fine. You're going to school.
We did not even have preschool.
Ready? I'd like to call to order the Parks and Public Works Committee regular meeting for August 27th, 2024. Will the clerk please call, deputy clerk, please call the roll?
Bob.
Here.
Chair.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Kimball.
Here.
Here. And then Dito.
Here.
For the record, it is Teal. I'll correct her for you.
Teal.
Member Roach is on vacation. And we don't need to approve absence, do we? Okay, great. Next up is approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda?
Go ahead, Keith. Motion. Approved.
Motion, Carrick, second. Hoffman, all in favor, please say yes. Yes. Okay, approval of minutes for July 23rd's meeting. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes, please?
I move we approve the minutes from July 23rd.
I'll second.
Motion Campbell, second Hoffman. You're a good second, Brian. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, wonderful. Public comments on agenda items only. We have no one in the gallery. If anyone online, Ashley, do you have any public comments for us? Wonderful. Okay. Well, we can close our first public comment session and move on to our agenda for review and discussion. First thing I want to do, I want to just welcome our new member, Judy, that I think everyone has met as they walked in. It's Judy's first meeting, and we welcome her, and we're excited to get started with her.
Thank you.
Yay, Judy.
Thank you.
Yay, Judy. First up is 6A, partnership with convention, the CBB, for additional bike racks. And if Ryan wants to kick us off on that. If you were following along on your packets, it's about, I think it's on page 3. No. Page. We got pictures, so I want you to follow along in your packets. There we go. Page 10 starts.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And maybe I'll wait for Sarah to pull that up too.
What page did you say?
10 is 10. Where the pictures start.
Ooh.
I like the ones on 11.
There, I don't know that you're sharing your screen though. Yep.
Hey, sorry, actually.
There we go.
Maybe if I can, Madam Chair, see, I don't know if Ashley is Lisa gonna hop on, do you know?
She is logging in right now.
Okay, all right. So I'll just get started with a little bit of the background. I know Lisa obviously knows, there she is, she's popping on. So we have some existing bike racks in town, and we have kind of the list in your packet there. Outside of the Butler here, there's a bike rack next to the bathrooms at Village Square. Down by the Star of Saugatuck, they have a pretty large bike rack that's on private property, and then Ida Reds has kind of a bike rack as well. And I think some of you have probably saw there's been some comments on social media and some inquiries that we've had with folks kind of requesting additional bike racks. And so I think the city agrees we could use some more, and I think our Convention and Visitors Bureau agrees we could use some more. And so we've had some discussions about adding some additional bike racks, but also about having maybe some bike racks be a little bit more artistic and kind of follow with our theme of being the art coast. So Scott Herbert, Lisa Mize, and I did kind of a walking tour around town maybe 3 to 4 weeks ago now, and kind of looked at different locations, and kind of came up with a list of suggestions to kind of add some more. So that included a bike rack next to the Rose Garden. So I haven't identified a specific spot, but somewhere in that particular area down on the Butler here, across from Coughlin Park next to Scooters. There's a kind of a spot off the sidewalk there that we've kind of been eyeing for a while that we think might be really good for bike racks, and is close to the lot that's there. across from the park on Main, at Wicks Park, and then kind of right next to the Chain Ferry. So Lisa Mize has kind of put together some different samples and things to kind of start thinking about and some ideas. I think there's a particular artist that she's engaging with that does kind of maybe like metal type work that might be able to bring something more artistic as well. But Lisa, is anything that you want to touch on or add? No, you're on mute there.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks. Just that I reached out to Cynthia McKean, who is our own local metal artist, and she's agreed to come up with a couple designs for me. I'm hoping to hear back from her by the end of this week, and then I'd be happy to present those designs to council.
Yeah. That'd be great. Those are really, I mean, just to look at them, the rainbow one is really beautiful. And
Yeah, I love
anything
that one
Cynthia
too.
comes up with, I'm sure it'd be gorgeous. Yeah. So what's the charge for PPW at this point? Are we to figure out where they go? I mean, obviously we're not ready to vote on any designs at this point. If we're waiting on that from Cynthia.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just kind of looking for some general feedback at this point on, you agree with the locations, and are, at least as a PPW, would you be in favor of recommending that, yeah, some of them
Hang on 1 second. Ashley, can you mute, please? We can hear your phone call. There we go. Sorry. So you want to talk about, so we're looking at doing 3 bike racks in 5 locations. And so really talking about locations or.
Well, I think locations and then, yes. And then are you, as a Parks and Public Works Committee, would you be supportive of, at least a couple of them being artistic in nature? And so just trying to have this be a touch point with you folks.
Okay, let's open it up.
Well, especially with the new trail coming on next year, I think we want to just almost advertise, that we're bike friendly. And
Yep.
So I would definitely support them, and I love the artistic designs.
Yeah, yeah, I think the artistic one is really, yeah, I agree that.
Yeah, and so is the one are any of these from Cynthia, or are these just some
These are all just ideas that I found on the internet. Cynthia would come up with her own. I did forward these to her so she could see some other examples, but she would come up with her own design.
And you guys are all familiar with Cynthia McKean's work, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so she's a great metal artist, and it's somebody who I think we could certainly trust to come up with something durable and beautiful. I have no doubt about that. So are we all in favor of?
My comment would be that when we ride bikes, and sometimes the bike racks are too small.
Okay.
They don't accommodate enough bikes. And with bike riders lately, you see like packs.
That's a good point. So like when I look.
Bigger the better.
Okay.
More bikes accommodation. And if you can get them from both sides instead of just one, if you can locate them so that bikes can be done on both sides.
When I look at this one that's rainbow, I'm sorry, on page 11, it looks like you could come at it from either way. And it looks like it holds as many as a utilitarian one. Like I think that the ones that we were looking at when the Eagle Scouts were presenting were like 5 wide, right?
Yeah.
So this to me looks like something along this line would fit the bill. So, okay.
It also something like that would also keep the bikes more organized, I think, because some of the freestanding ones, we might have bikes toppling over as well.
Yeah, this looks pretty durable, and you can see that it's bolted into the cement too. Yeah, I really like that one. But yeah, I do agree. When you look at something like this one with the paintbrush and the palette is beautiful, but you'd maybe get 1 or 2 bikes on it, and it's not really very
And I know you've probably thought about this, Ryan, but at Coughlin Park, we've got a couple of events. So if you put them all the way to the east side, it'd probably be, no one would bump into them as when the tents go up.
Yeah, for Coughlin, we're looking actually at, like I said, across the street,
Scooters?
Right next to Scooters. There's some, it's actually city-owned property, and so we kind of had some discussion about that area, and it's a beautiful open area. Is there really a good spot to put a bike rack? Might that kind of take away from some of the sight lines to the water? And so we were thinking across the street, but
I think there used to be one of the Scooters on that cement pad. I feel like there was an old bike rack there.
I think there was, because I think I put my bike.
I feel like is that not true, Scott? Was there not?
Not that I recall. There was, the location that we're referring to over by Scooters, it does have like an old art base. So there was presumably some sort of sculpture, but it's been a number of years since that was even there. So we were thinking of kind of taking a underutilized spot and reconfiguring it for modern use, in this case, a bike rack.
Well, I really like that spot, especially, well, one, these are all city property, but to your point about being close to the Blue Star Trail and in town, you know, that's gonna get you right in off of Lake Street, and, I think that it's a great location. I don't know what,
Right by SEA too, so.
yeah, yeah. So the way I'm reading it is that everybody's kind of looking forward to the artistic bike racks. Yeah. As long as they're, well, good for utilitarian purposes and that.
Can we go down to the letters, the letter bike? There's C's across.
Yeah.
there. Can we do S's?
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's tubular steel, it should be.
Well, I think that we were waiting to hear back from the artist. I don't know
Well,
that he's interested.
I'm not sure you would want to dictate to the artist.
Yeah, jumping ahead of myself a little bit.
It's just like, yeah. All right, well, I think that it's cool that we have got some involvement from the CVB, and I'm happy and grateful for that. And so we wait to hear what she comes up with, Ms. McKean. And then at this point, I think if we want to talk about locations, does that sound good? So I've already advocated, I believe that I think that there should be one. If we're looking at 3, Ryan?
Well, 5, I mean, total. So not all of them will be artistic necessarily, but.
Or we're looking at 5 bike racks and.
Right. So if
Okay.
you go to Sarah page
If we can pull those back up.
9, it kind of has, the locations there that we're thinking. So,
Okay, I thought we had 3, but we were picking from those locations. Okay, so okay, I love that.
Throw in Peterson Preserve if you wanted.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
There's just a lot of space there. What else is floating around town? The new airport.
So-
Well, it's an old airport.
Well, I think that these guys have kind of picked the locations, though. I was mistaken about that. I thought we were supposed to pick
I'm
up the
kidding
3. I
about
don't know.
the
I have that.
airport,
Yeah, thanks.
But yeah, Peterson Preserve would be an excellent spot.
We certainly have the space there.
It's Peterson Preserve. Right, Peterson Preserve, is that maybe additional location, any others? Otherwise, you're fine with these locations or think that they're.
And we've already got the one going up at Mount Baldhead.
Yes, I mean, that's still ongoing, but yep, these were just kind of downtown focused.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So as long as this is, we definitely need one at Mount Baldhead. So as
Yep,
long as
that's still, yep.
That's part of the Eagle project. Okay. Perfect. All
I
right.
really like the one at Wicks Park because I frequently ride down there with my grandkids. We have a picnic. and
Yeah.
Our bikes are falling over
Yeah.
and, it looks sloppy. So
No, that's great. I like that. Okay.
Good feedback from the biking community. So.
Yes, absolutely. All right, fantastic. Okay, well, with that, we can move on, I think, to item 6B, request from Saugatuck Douglas History Center for additional historical. I'm sorry, Lisa, did you have anything you wanted to add before we close out that item?
No, I'm good. I was just here to answer any questions for you.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate your help in this very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, let's move down to page, 15. And if Ryan wants to kick that off.
Sure, yeah. So the Saugatuck Douglas History Center is kind of had a multi-year project where they've installed historical markers in various locations throughout the tri-community. And so they have a couple of additional markers that they're interested in installing, same materials, same look and appearance. So they'd like to add one at the Chain Ferry, on the other side of the river, and then the west side of the river. And then they would like to add one at Village Square Park, kind of in the area of the restrooms. So this is something that at least the marker at the Village Square Park will go to the Historic District Commission for review, but also wanted to just touch base with Parks and Public Works Committee to see if you had any thoughts or concerns.
Are they talking, I'm sorry, did I interrupt? Are they talking about still doing it one for the playground? Remember that was going to tie in Singapore for like children? Is that separate from what this is? It sounds.
Yeah, this is separate. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so this,
but they are still planning on doing the one for the playground?
I haven't had any updates on that, and I don't know that they were. Well,
I
I
don't
guess
think
you
it was
can correct me. I don't know if they were planning on a marker per se, but I think that they were looking at some sort of signage or
Yeah, it was different like this. You've seen, they even have these in Douglas and that, so you've seen those around town, but the one that they're, I think this is completely separate from what they're talking about for the playground. That's what I wanted to make sure when we're sitting here, because the playground, they kind of wanted to like tie it in so kids could understand like old Singapore, or, you know,
That makes sense.
the tribes
Right.
and things
Just
like
so we
that.
don't lose track of that, because I thought that was a good idea.
It's a great idea. Yeah, no, I do. I love that. So, okay, so they want, do you guys have any comments on these? And you guys have seen these around town already, right? In certain areas? I know I've seen them at the Root Beer Barrel and Douglas Beach and
Oval has one too.
what's that?
Oval has one too.
Yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah. No, I think they're great.
I think that they're great. I think that it's a nice tie into our history and it's, you know, I mean, I think that they serve a great purpose of keeping us centered on, you know, where we came from and that. So I don't know if there's any other questions or
I would
discussion.
actually like to see one, like what you just said, at the playground.
So yeah, I think
Different though.
it will be different. My understanding is that Kelly was in talks with the executive director at the historic district or historic center and in conversations, and I think it was his idea actually to tie in so that something that's kid friendly, not just, you know, something like this that goes into all the details about whatever, but something to, you know, start you off early and make you understand the ties to the community and our history. So that's a separate issue on the playground, but yeah. So these are just the two then, one in Village Square and this one on the Chain Ferry would be on the River West?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Anything else?
Cool.
All right, fantastic, thank you. Moving along to item 6C, DPW updates. I'm sure it's been pretty slow this summer. We probably got nothing for it.
Yeah, we're just waking up. We do like an opposite hibernation. No, I just thought I'd touch base on some of the more notable activities that we have planned that are actually either in progress or will be. I took a little bit of time to start plugging some of our activities, annual routine stuff into October, and you know we're approaching Labor Day, so I'm kind of filling up the fall schedule, and it took all of about 4 minutes to fill up October. So it does not take much to put us at capacity, but a couple things worth noting now that the Oval Beach is kind of coming to a close. I host a weekly management meeting with the Oval Beach manager, Noah, and then some of the other staff at Public Works that has worked at the beach before as well. And at your last meeting, I discussed pushing out another RFP for leasing out the concession stand building. But after our management meeting for Oval, we kind of gave it a little more thought and reached the conclusion that you know, part of the problem that we had before is that we had quite a few different managers over a short period of time, where now we feel like we have a consistent manager, and we're not super thrilled about the idea of dishing out the responsibility or leasing it out at this point until we get some more data. So what we'd like to do is not push out the RFP, but continue to run the concession stand ourselves, but really with our new finance director and Mr. Cummins kind of evaluate after each year, where do we stack up in terms of revenue? And does it make sense for us to lease it out, or is this something that we should be doing ourselves? So just to give you an update on kind of where we're at, we are planning on running the concession stand for the next few years while we're just collecting data. And then another thing that we're doing this fall is concrete work. So part of this, we all know that we need some picnic park benches at the Village Square playground. So we've got a map laid out for that.
Heard anything about that?
That's yeah. I think Ryan's planning on taking our plan for concrete slabs back to Historic District Commission, and I believe once I get that information to him, and we'll lump that in with our concrete work as well as the concrete pads for the bike rack over at Mount Baldhead, and let's see, probably a little bit for the life jacket station out at Oval Beach, but and then some routine sidewalk replacements this fall.
Can I just ask a question about the benches? So the original benches will come back?
Yeah, we have 5 or 6 of them still in stock at Public Works. So
is that what we're planning on, is just the same ones that we had, or any additional?
I think so. We had a lot of generous folks reach out to the city, at least 3 that offered to donate a bench. How the donation policy works, or I guess I should say a memorial policy is, you know, if somebody approaches the city and states that they want to donate a bench in honor or memory of whoever, that kind of just goes into the queue. And then when the city reaches a point where we have a need for it, then we can reach out to the first people on that list and ask if they're still interested in donating. But for right, so yeah, a lot of generosity, really appreciate the support. We do have 5 perfectly good composite benches at Public Works. I think a couple of them are the ones that we took out of there. So,
Well, I've just had a number of people when I'm standing around there watching the grandkids, say, what happened to those benches? And I say, they're safe and they're coming back. And that's
it's
True. Both those things are true, correct.
It's
yeah.
kind of funny too, because Ryan and I have both received some emails. So Public Works, we installed sod down at Village Square Playground. And so part of the procedure for installing sod is you try to keep foot traffic off of it until it takes root. And so we have gotten a real kick out of watching people. We put up some temporary signage that says, please stay off the grass. And people are just baffled by it. They walk up to it and like, is this serious? We can't walk on a city park. And so I totally get that perspective. So we've offered a little more information. Yes. Now it's just kind of funny, but so tree work, Ryan notified Public Works that Consumers Energy offered a tree grant called the Community Street and Boulevard Tree Planting Grant offered by consumers. The intent of the grant is to help fund up to $3,000 for qualifying projects that successfully incorporate the delicate balance of tree planting and utility wires overhead. So Public Works, we submitted an application and put forth some details on which trees we'd like to plant in which location, and had to send in some photos of where what the trees would look like in relation to the overhead utilities, and we got approved for it. So last night at the council meeting, the council approved to sign the agreement, and we'll get some trees planted in the ground this fall too.
Wonderful.
Missed that last.
It's good, yeah.
How many trees?
15. Yeah, 15 this round. So we try to diversify the species that we plant. It's just kind of your best hedge against invasive species and
Crab apples, blueberries.
all fruit bearing female ginkgos. Yeah. Yeah. No, so so per the grant requirements, we have to get those in the ground before November 8th. So that's going to take place the first week of November. I reached out to Great Lakes Ornamentals. They've got the tree that they'll be digging up for us so we can pick them up and get them in the ground. Another one that I'm excited to kind of report back is about recycling, the recycling pilot program that we've implemented. I had a meeting about a week ago with Jack Brown. He's our municipal representative for Republic Services, and we set aside kind of a batch of the recycling content of what we've been collecting, because that's ultimately our big question is the content that we're collecting, is it contaminated or is it acceptable? Is it ultimately doing what we all hope that it's going to be doing? And to my surprise, Jack took a look at it with me, and he's like, there's no question this stuff is clean enough. So typically they accept contamination.
Their hands to go through this. Like, it wasn't just like a quick glance.
Oh, he went through it.
Really going
Well,
through it.
whenever I'm in other towns, I was in Howland the other day and I'm peering in the recycle bin, and my husband's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I just can't believe our tourists are any dumber than anybody else's. Like, there's stuff in here. And there's stuff in there and they're working it just fine. I saw ice cream wrappers and I saw all kinds of crap in that recycle bin. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I want to make sure that, I think I will put them up with anybody else's dumb tourists. I'm good with that. Yes, absolutely.
Talking about stickers
Uh,
on top.
You know, based on what we're collecting, you're right. We talked about maybe having some more educational pieces on the receptacles just to maybe attempt to make the material cleaner. There's really not much of a need at this point, because their contamination rates are pretty generous. So they'll accept material that's like, up to whatever their standard is. I think it was like 40% of it could be contaminated. We're at like 10%.
I'm really
So
encouraged to hear
we're
that.
well within threshold for this. It's not even close.
Awesome.
Just if you ever want to do it, the library has this amazing machine that does anything. It goes through. You put your sticker in it, you put your vinyl in it, and it'll print anything out.
Nice.
That's good to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
Don't let the public use it, but we can.
there you go.
I'm just so glad you brought it up in a public meeting.
We're here.
No, so,
This wheel.
so I think, in my mind, again, this has to, be discussed with, Ryan and I kind of have to get our heads around this a little bit more. And so I don't want to promise anything, but, from a practical standpoint, it seems like to me, we only have like 3 recycle bins around right now, and we're collecting quite a bit of material. I got some pricing. To me, it only makes sense to scale it up versus, eliminate the program. So,
That's what we wanted.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you.
So-
That's really good news. I love that.
Yeah. And then, road resurfacing projects, I'll just touch base really quick on that. Council approved an award to Michigan Paving and Materials Company to do some what we call mill and overlay road resurfacing work this fall. So we're taking some of our worst roads that have really good or decent utilities underneath them, and we're skimming off the top 1.5-inch layer of asphalt and repaving with HMA paving equipment, new road resurfacing. So that's really nice to see. Everyone loves.
What roads are we doing? You doing?
Yes.
It's in our council packet. I don't think.
Yeah, well, there's only 5, so I can tell you. So there's a couple spots that are rough on Lucy Street as you approach Holland Street. There's a section there that's going to get repaved, and then Francis Street. There's 2 different sections that between Water and Butler. That's going to get milled from curb to curb, the whole width of the road, and resurfaced, and then from Holland Street all the way up to just before Elizabeth Street. Everyone keeps asking, almost that entire road. It's pretty bad, but everyone keeps asking about Elizabeth Street. So I'll just touch on that just a second. It's on our radar. That road is in rough shape. The high school is still under construction for another year or so. They have another phase of their project that they're doing. So, and then when the city does start moving on Elizabeth Street, it's going to require water main replacement. So that'll be a major cost for us. Yeah. But for now, we can pick away at Francis Street. And then Griffith Street, pretty much from Culver Street right here to Mason Street, that's getting resurfaced from curb to curb. And then on Mason Street up on top of the hill from Elizabeth Street to Grand.
So we'll be trapped in our homes.
It's a moving.
Walk everywhere.
No, it's, these crews, they come in quick and.
No one lives in the village.
Yeah, absolutely. Then there was, let me see. Oh, and then one last thing, Cody Hardy resigned from Public Works a while back. He took a job that he couldn't refuse in the private sector for Semco Energy. And so we have, we've accepted resumes, and we are conducting interviews this week to fill that role.
Nice. How many candidates do you have?
It was probably about 20 that we had that I had to sort through,
Okay.
and we reduced it down to 6.
Okay, that's a good field
That's
to pick from.
impressive.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that.
Some of them are existing employees too. So whether they work seasonally out at the Oval Beach or at Public Works currently, it's always nice to kind of try it before you buy it from my perspective. So.
Good, good. Is this, can we ask about the possibility of the tennis court repaving project? Is there any updates on that for?
Yeah, sure. I was going to touch on that under the Village Square update.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can touch on it now if you want, Madam Chair.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so after, this is by way of a reminder, there was a donor that had come forth with an interest in helping the city resurface the basketball court and the tennis courts at Village Square Park. And then, we sought feedback from you as a Parks and Public Works Committee, and there was interest in kind of making the courts, multi-purpose, but there was, support for resurfacing and, painting the courts and lines and maybe some new fencing, and we talked about some bleachers. So I, reached out to the donor's representative, and they were, I think, interested and supportive of multi-purpose courts. So I reached out to our engineers to kind of get some, an initial engineering proposal on what the cost might be to put all of this together. And a little bit of sticker shock for me. I didn't quite seemed a little apparently there's challenges with these types of courts and making sure they drain properly and everything else. And so essentially the quote to resurface these courts are at $250,000, which is more than the donor at least was offering initially. So they were going to look at the the condition and evaluate it a little bit more closely, and then kind of circle back and they notified me of a potential grant opportunity that could be a thing, but could take a while to come to fruition if we were to put in and get funding. So at this point, it's kind of waiting on their further evaluation to kind of see what shape they're really in. I mean, maybe if they're in good shape, it's just more of a matter of painting and kind of refreshing that way. So more to come, but that's kind of where it's at. So
I'm sorry to bring that through early. That's been in my head that when I saw others, I couldn't resist. So yeah.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions for our superintendent? No? Thank you, Scott. I will move on to item D, update on Saugatuck Harbor natural area. I know Ryan has some items on this for us.
Yeah, so as you may recall, several years ago when the Saugatuck Harbor natural area was sold to the city, there was kind of a master plan that was created, and then there was some funds set aside at the Holland Zealand Community Foundation to kind of it was an endowment fund to help with future maintenance and future needs that the Saugatuck Harbor natural area may have. And so, in order to access those funds, the endowment agreement states that the city has to make sure that plan is updated every 5 years. Well, looking at the plan and the history, it refers to having a management board, which frankly no longer exists. And I talked to all kinds of folks, and we looked through historical records to kind of try to find out like why the management board that did exist for a short period of time went away, and then who was supposed to kind of have that oversight going forward. And so we looked through some past council resolutions and the document itself, and frankly, kind of it ended up as kind of being probably a legal question on what was the best way to handle this going forward. So I had our legal take a look at the historical documents, and they found some of the questions kind of interesting as well. But essentially what we landed on is that because the management board doesn't currently exist, that we probably could have the city council approve updating the plan, but to comply with the existing plan and maintain the spirit of what was being created, that we certainly would want to include the Land Conservancy of West Michigan in that process, or at least get their input. So I reached out to Land Conservancy of West Michigan and kind of ran that path by them, and they were agreeable to it and are more than happy to be involved or provide some input into updating that plan. In talking with the chair, and I don't think that the plan really needs a ton of updates. I think it's actually a very solid plan that still is very applicable today. So it's probably just going to be more some cleanup language, and then the Land Conservancy had recommended kind of updating maybe the species list and inventory. And so I had a little bit of correspondence. I haven't quite read through his response email yet, of kind of some options and ways to handle that. So all of that to say, I think we have a path forward to at least update that plan and get it approved by the council, so that way we can then access those funds for whatever needs the Saugatuck Harbor natural area has.
Do we need, or not we, but does the management board need to be put in place, or just council?
At this point, it's just council that can update the plan. I think we'll have to have some discussion with them about whether or not we want to have a management board again, because the way the management board is laid out in the plan is it kind of identifies a lot of other representatives from other communities. So we'll have to have some discussion about whether or not that's most appropriate, or whether or not it should stay under the kind of the council's purview going forward.
And I can offer that plan to anyone who hasn't seen it yet. I know we have it out there, and then Kelly and I have taken a look at doing a red line on it, just really just updating, like you said, species or things that we know that are outdated. So we haven't gone through it, but it's actually, it's very well written. I don't even know who wrote it. And it had to be somebody from the Land Conservancy or something.
Could have been, yeah.
It's well done. Yeah.
Yeah.
So having a management board is not set in stone.
Correct. I mean, it's part of the, it's referenced in the plan, but so, I mean, I assume if the council kind of, wants to have a management board going forward, then, you know, they could say, yeah, that's something that we want to maintain and could keep that in the plan, and we would need to form one. The council could choose to delegate that to the Parks and Public Works Committee, probably, or they could choose to kind of keep it under their purview as well.
So what would be the process for making sure, like, we don't lose sight of all this again, you know, because somehow it just got lost.
So we need to, may I? I'm sorry.
Sure.
So we need to update this every 5 years. It's just the master plan for the Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area, and it's in really good shape, and just had, I don't think it's been touched in maybe 15 years. We were looking at it. It's been a while.
Graded, yeah.
So all during this time, then all of the funds been building up. So
Right.
we're allowed to take the interest accrued on the principal. So that's been building up, and we've got close to $200,000 in there that are to treat invasives and all these things in Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area. So the requirements are that we have to update it every 5 years. That really, and then once we keep that, then we're in compliance. Right now, we're just out of compliance because it hasn't been updated. So
Right, but-
once it's updated, and then we'd have to decide who the body is. Like, is the body council? Does council want to go and find other representatives? You know, do they pull from other communities? Do they put it on PP? So that would be something that it gets decided at a council level, I think, between staff and council. And then once we got it updated, then whoever the body is, we can vote on basically what we spend those funds on. If we, you know, this year we're going to treat invasives, next year we're going to put in a lookout, or, you know, there's things like that too.
Yeah, okay. I was just kind of wanting to make sure that, you know, we don't like, and even if we do spend all the money that's there, that's available to us, that we don't then kind of, you know, it kind of
Forget
falls
about
off.
it again. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then in
yeah.
another
No.
5 years, it's like,
We
oh.
need to stay,
yeah.
we'll stay on top of it. And that,
One of the things that somebody who should be praised to this situation kind of probably all the time is the Deem property.
Mhm.
Because people actually cut through his
They're right there.
property now, and it's hard for him to manage. I haven't talked to him in a long time, a couple of years, but he said it kind of irritates him.
Yeah, understood.
People walk up to his house while they're there.
Yeah.
So maybe part of the management board or the council board, or you should include him actually as you go along.
Okay, understood.
Your contact.
All right, anything else on Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area? Okay, we'll keep it moving then to item E, study group and other staff updates, starting with item 1 is invasive species.
Okay, so over the last week, well, first I'll say that Scott and I are going to get together. He came by the house a couple weeks ago, and we've had the house painted, and it's been kind of nutty. So we're going to get together and go drive around town, and Scott's going to show me where some of the problem areas are. But the other thing, and it kind of works into what we were talking about, both as the airport property goes ahead and any of our natural public areas, to start putting up markers of what people should be looking for. Because the only way that you can get things under control is if people know what kind of invasives they're looking for. So I called the Department of Natural Resources. They don't have something specifically, but they could give me information. And with the library having such a great printing opportunities.
I'm not regret saying that.
You are going to say that it might be something for us to consider, certainly at the airport property. And there's a difference, there's aquatic invasives that are coming, that either at the boat launches, just to have something to say, you know, if you see these and how to report them. Because they're really quite easy at michigan.gov/invasives. And you can, you know, make a report of what you see. You take a picture, tell them what it is, and they can log that. So that was the big thing that I thought that we should think about going forward is how do we get the community involved in looking for these things so that, you know, we don't have to, Scott doesn't have to go around and say, you know, clean something out or go to someone's house. And another thing, this is just a terrifying thing that I'll share with you, I found.
Oh, thanks.
And there's something called the marbled crawfish. I don't know if anyone's heard of
Marbled what?
marbled crawfish. That's when I thought, okay, aquatic is important too. It was a crawfish that was sold as a pet because they could turn colors like blue or red. They became banned in 2020 in Michigan, but people still owned them. And they were asked to euthanize them. Yeah, get rid of them, but people threw them in the water. And the problem is that they're all female. They clone themselves. They can lay 700 eggs each and take over, you know, lakes. And while we haven't had an infestation here, they still keep looking for it. It's on every watch list that these are horrible things to have. So I just thought that, well, we need to have people engaged in what we're looking for.
I hope I never see that. I want to see the
It just-
700 marbled crawfish.
It's like, okay, just lay eggs and go about your business. Everybody lives.
You know, as far as what you mentioned about information, I was just hiking outside Galena, Illinois for a couple of days. And on these trails, they had like, you know, information things like, this is what's in the area as far as flora, fauna, and, you know, birds or whatever. And then they had a list of invasive species and pictures next to them.
Well, that's what I kind of think, that we could do something like that with invasive. So as people walk through and they see something, because a lot of these plants, they have cute little flowers or, you know,
Yeah.
there's one that looks like a buttercup that masses over everything. That is a problem that's shown up. It's called lesser celandine, I have to say it. And it's shown up in the Grand River watershed. So those are things that are coming our way for sure. That people don't know what they're looking for. So if we can have some kind of markers like, just like that, if you see X, Y, and Z pictures and how to contact someone that you found an invasive.
Okay.
What do you think of the idea of adding something to like our website where we, you know, we start to post those things too, where it would be comprehensive and, you know, I mean, because if people are interested. Because
locals
I know
look at
that
that
one of
too.
our citizens, our local residents, he likes to sell plants out of his garage.
Yeah.
He sells lesser celandine because I bought it thinking it was something else.
Oh, no.
And I found
Yeah.
out since, but my neighbor then came down the other day and this spring, and she was like, look what I bought. My other neighbor has the most artistic Asian bittersweet, as you know,
Okay.
On the sign.
on the sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I haven't said anything, but you know, if we could just,
It's a
anyway,
problem.
I'd be thrilled to help you with that. And I just wanted to add one other thing, which is purple loosestrife has always been like the biggest bee in my bonnet. And the preserve is overrun with it. And if we could, you know, if we could at least get that on our list too. Because even
Absolutely.
though
I think that's a great, I had not thought of that, to put it on. Yeah, we should put
the
that together.
Scott and I have worked on this in the past, and there's a lot of it in the water in the preserve, and that's just very difficult to access. But there's also a lot of it in the perimeter. And when I walk around there, I see a lot of good native species, but then I see the loosestrife, you know, is even more present. And so if we could at least work on getting the loosestrife off the shoreline and promoting the natives, I think that would be, you know, worth our time, and I'd be happy to work with you on
I
that.
think that'd be great. Yeah, no.
Is there a way to-
And I think putting it on the website would be a great idea.
Is there
Not
a way
really
to
considered that.
utilize the city's website for that kind of a section like that, or is it too much of a hassle?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, content creation is a piece of it, but if there's, you know, some of you that are already working on, you know, pictures and information and, you know, we can work on, creating a separate page for that. I mean, we do have a lot of beautiful landscaping in town, but they said that sometimes that can bring some unintended consequences from certain items. And Scott, I see Councilmember Gardner's on Zoom, and he's brought up concerns with the purple loosestrife and Peterson Preserve as well. And Scott and I had some conversations about that. And Scott, maybe you could just update everybody. I mean, I know there's kind of a, you know, there's larger considerations here too with the Drain Commission and whether or not they're going to do a project that might involve, you know, removing some of this. And
Yeah, no, happy to, Ryan. Purple loosestrife. If I recall, the Outdoor Discovery Center at one point introduced some beetles that were supposed to consume the purple loosestrife, but if it is working, it's at a turtle pace. And so, but that was kind of an attempt to just introduce some sort of natural, you know, remedy to that situation. But I know if you go upriver, especially in like marshy areas like the Peterson Nature Preserve, like in the Ottawa Marsh, just east of here, there's acres and acres of this stuff. And periodically the DNR will come in and do like a controlled burn on a lot of it. But there's pros and cons to that as well. But it's not just isolated to Saugatuck or that preserve. It's everywhere. But the tricky thing about invasives is almost like, well, there's so many of them. I mean, I just read an article that there's a balsam fir adelgid, like a hemlock woolly adelgid that we have here now. That's kind of creeping its way this way. So we may have other species of adelgids coming. So
You really do look at it, it becomes overwhelming because there are so many. You really have to pick and choose.
yeah, I mean, we have limited resources, right? So it's almost nice to kind of, I think the county has some resources available where they can kind of hone in a little bit and say which ones are the most destructive or difficult to treat or expensive to treat, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, that was kind of exactly the conversation Scott and I had. Okay, well, which invasives are like most concerning at this point to put our resources towards? You know, the council set aside some dollars in their budget for treating invasives, but, you know, a good chunk of it's going to, you know, treating the, you know, the waterways and the milfoil that's out there. But
I have to say too, that I think that there could be funds. I know that, I mean, I can't speak for Rotary and I'm not on the board, but I know that, you know, part of their, mission is for the environmental protection. If we came forward with a comprehensive plan about what we want to treat, where it is and how much it would cost, I think that they'd be open to at least entertaining, that.
okay, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
More people are aware. It's like the tree. It's like, you know, don't buy that.
Yeah.
You know, don't plant that. I mean, there are a number of things that people think innocently, you know, I'm gonna put it in my hanging basket, I'm gonna do this or that are problems.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even if we don't do it on the website immediately, if you create a little list with picture, you know, a link maybe to an outside website, or you create a little list with a short definition and maybe a picture, you could do it in the email blast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a thought too.
Separate email blast, City of Sagatuck invasive species.
Or even, yeah, I mean, there's the link to, you know, even just to link to the Michigan.gov invasive species, which they have lined up what it is, where it is, and how to deal with them.
Okay.
But I do want to think about markers for certainly the airport property and somewhere for aquatic places that people know that come to visit, that say if they're going to take a trail, you know, look out for this.
I want to tie into that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's.
Oh, anyone have any questions for him before I want to tie into that, and this will bridge to the airport properties. Our next topic is that Kelly was organizing, I remember Roach is out today, the middle school fundraiser, which each class does community service. This year, the 8th graders are gonna be working on invasives at the airport property, which I'm sure Brian knows about this. And they're gonna be pulling spotted knapweed and autumn olive in the parking area, as well as the heads of the first 2 trails. It's pretty overrun right now. It's hard to get back there with the trails not being legitimized yet. So
Do again.
spotted knapweed and autumn olive. And that is on September 20th from 9 to 11 a.m. I'm going to be volunteering. They're looking for PPW members in group leads. I know that we had this last year. I wasn't able to attend. I know that the member Teal is going to sign up for that. So if anyone's available and wants to help out with the 8th graders, I think that that's just a really good way to get them involved, and and get me and other people educated on what we're looking for and what to pull. So they'll be there and at the township dog property. All right. So while we're on the airport property, any updates on that from city manager?
Yeah, not a ton of updates, other than, you know, the last update I had from the ODC was that they were working on drafting the conservation easement language and doing the survey work, the proposed conservation easement boundaries. So it's kind of waiting those first initial drafts that will then you know, be reviewed with the city council and have some discussion with them before they ultimately make a decision on that portion. So I think I received some questions from some folks thinking that the conservation easement was already like signed or already in place, and you know, it's not. You know, we need that actual easement language and official boundaries, you know, before that's complete. So still some process and further discussions to occur on that.
Okay. We'll move on to the Blue Star multimodal path.
Give me 2 seconds on the airport property.
Sorry, please.
I talked to 2 perch fishermen and I walked through there with one of them, and they fish on Silver Lake. And they said the water is just perfect through that creek. It's a headwater, and they felt if, you know, if there's any development on that property, it'll pollute the creek, hence pollute Silver Lake. And they really, Silver Lake's kind of unique. It's actually, doesn't have that much pollution right now from the people who live around that use chemicals on their lawns. So and there's enough, that little section right at the, north end of Silver Lake just filters so much stuff right now. So they felt that the fishing would go totally downhill, especially in the winter when people perch fish on the ice, that all of a sudden if the land was developed. And they're willing to come and talk to
So
us.
when we look at the conservation easement, it really is on the ravine and areas that are already basically not buildable.
But it's actually, when you look at a watershed,
Mm-hmm.
it's more than just what's at the edges. It just all filters down there and it's all sand dunes anyways. I don't know how far the clay base is, but it comes all the way it starts all the way in the north side at, I think the
Ravines, yeah.
is up there. I don't know if the ravines totally surround the headwaters. And if you go north of the ravines on the east side of the street is the old brass factory. Which is probably a tiny Superfund site.
Okay.
So their thing was just like, they're totally into it. They're totally into maintaining it, protecting it. And that was their thing.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Item E3, the Blue Star Path. Do you have any updates, Member Kimball?
Well, remember at the last meeting, I talked about that we got thrown a little bit of a curve with the tribes, that we found out from MDOT that the entire length of the section that we're working on does need to be reviewed, have a tribal review. And so what that entailed, and I've learned all these things, is that we had to have additional work done by one of the subcontractors to, I guess, assess the path, and then that had to be submitted to the tribes, or actually submitted to MDOT, and MDOT then distributes it to the tribes. So that actually did get completed on August 1st. And if you recall, there was 60 business days that the tribes have to review this. And according to our contact at C2AE, the best we can hope for is that we don't hear anything in 60 days. And if we don't hear anything, then we'll just proceed. If we do, then we'll have to figure out what we have to do to mitigate their concerns. So that means basically they've pushed back our bid letting date for construction to December 6th. But if that holds, then we're still on track for spring 2025 construction. So fingers crossed, I guess I would say. Hopefully some random strip of land, that a bike path is going to be built on really doesn't hold any great tribal significance. It's not like Mount Baldy. So I'm hopeful.
Thank you.
The last thing I wanted to say, and actually we have 12 tribes in the state, and they all get an opportunity to weigh in on this. And it said, and any others in the nation that might have concerns, but I don't know who would. And lastly, I just wanted to update you. The Friends of the Blue Star Trail had our gala major fundraiser. Thanks to those of you who attended. We netted a little over $100,000.
Amazing.
Wow.
That's great.
And so, and it started out as people who were basically in charge of it didn't want to do as big of a fundraiser, but it kind of grew and morphed. And anyway, it turned out great. And also the Lakeshore Harvest Ride is coming up September 14th. So anybody who wants to do an excellent fun ride.
Do you allow e-bikes?
Yes. Yes.
So that the money you raised, is that for the entire trail system?
That's for the entire trail, right? So we've got the money already set aside for this particular section, that goes, from basically the Beeline Trail down to, the Douglas Trail that's already built on the bridge. But what we're working on now is the piece from where Douglas's trail ends at like Wiley Road all the way to M89. And that has come in. The estimates are outrageous. Huge. And we have to basically, the commitment is to build the trail all the way to South Haven. And that's one reason MDOT is actually giving us funds, is because it's considered a connector trail. So we can't back off on that. We're committed to that.
It's next to the Cal Haven Trail.
Yeah.
Which will connect us to the Cal Haven Trail.
It's amazing how costly trails are. But
Oh my gosh.
beyond
If
grateful
you have to
to
start building boardwalk, and that kind of thing, it gets so expensive.
Okay, any further questions on Blue Star Trail? Okay, we'll move along to Village Square and Playground. We did get a partial update on the basketball and tennis courts. Don't know if there's anything else in the,
Yeah, just other than, Scott's notation that, benches are coming. We just have to present those plans to the Historic District Commission and get their approval. So I think Scott's got the concrete contractor in October. So aiming for the beginning of October for that approval.
perfect, thank you. Any other questions for city manager, anyone on Village Square? Okay. Item number 5, E5, Park Street Mount Bald Head improvements and AT&T status.
Yeah, as far as, Mount Bald Head improvements, I included the engineer's report, so you could kind of take a look at where they're at with, the engineering work on the new bathrooms and the upper platform. We're trying to get that new bathroom in as soon as possible. And I know you were going to follow up. Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here with John to kind of see what the timeline, if we could firm that up a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't locked in a time frame, but we are definitely pushing for the fall. But we're at the mercy of contractors, so we can't always guarantee that.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause initially John was kind of floating out there like next fall, and I'm like, no, we're not.
I'm just ready to smash the existing restroom down with the backhoe.
Yeah, so
That's really all I want.
if not this,
There are several residents that would be right with you.
so if not this fall, I mean, my expectation is that, city council budgeted the funds this year. We really need to move forward on it this year. Platform might take a little bit longer with some permitting. Part of it's also permitting too, right? So we're in critical dune areas, and so we're also kind of subject to, Eagles process and have to follow those laws as well. AT&T status with the city council on last Wednesday, we reviewed kind of some updated plans with them. So similar to the Blue Star Trail, we also have to have State Historic Preservation Office approvals and tribal consultation for the Mount Bald Head site and putting cellular antenna in the radome. So the tribes have listed a number of concerns and questions that they have, and so AT&T has been kind of working through those to try to one, answer the questions, and two, try to address the concerns on their front end before we get to a more formal like mitigation type process. So one of the tribal concerns is just with the amount of digging and ground disturbance in the area. So AT&T is proposing to actually place the conduit above ground but under the steps. So that way they don't have to bore under the dune and potentially disturb the ground, but then still place the conduit under the steps. So it's not something that, necessarily seeing as easily. So we reviewed that with council, and I think the consensus, at least from the city council, was that they were okay moving forward with that set of plans. So AT&T was working on finalizing their latest response back to the State Historic Preservation Office and the tribes to get some further feedback. So still working on it. It's a very lengthy process, but we also want to be very, sensitive and respectful to the tribal concerns as well. As this, does have, cultural significance, to their history. So.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to E6 Maple Street.
Yeah, so the topographic survey work is done, and so I think the next phase that we're looking at is kind of engaging with the folks that anybody that's interested, but particularly the folks that live along Maple Street. As a reminder, this involves both water main replacement and then obviously road restoration as well. And then so we're evaluating also, more, pedestrian friendly options, whether it's sidewalks or wider shoulders, so folks have more room to walk. So I think we're looking at we just had an email and I haven't had a chance to go completely through it, but I think John Moxie, our engineer, kind of proposed a couple different options or a hybrid option to do probably in September yet, where we would invite the folks that live along Maple Street to either kind of come in during a block of hours, late afternoon into the evening. So that way it works with folks' work schedules and they can kind of come in open house style, see kind of a set of, very preliminary plans and surveys and ideas and kind of give some feedback. Or we could schedule a more formal, hey, at this time, we're going to do a kind of a full presentation and then just kind of take questions afterwards. Or we may do a combination of those things. So we're still kind of finalizing those details. And if you have any feedback on what might be best, I'm all ears too. But it's important, I think, to engage folks and see what they would like to see for that area. It's going to be a big project and impactful to them, but also I think pretty a good project to have along that corridor that'll last for many years to come.
And it's a good way to get public input, especially, I mean, and that kind of stuff. We've had a lot of those, we had one with the airport property, we've had them with the parks plan and all that. And it does give people an opportunity to come in and have a cookie and look at what you're looking at and give you some feedback. I like that idea.
Yeah, we've already had a couple of people reach out. I had a guy stop by Public Works and just say like, hey, there really isn't a lot of stormwater infrastructure on Maple Street. Almost zero, to be specific, but it's nice for people to be able to stop by or just give us some sort of feedback, especially before Fleece and Vandenbrink gets too heavy into the design phase. So if there's known issues, let's hear them and try to bake in some sort of solution to them as we go.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. With that, we will open up our second public comment session. We have no one in the gallery. Anyone online wish to comment? No? Okay. Well, we'll close our public comment session. We do have correspondence from Mr. Lint on the possibility of the tennis courts, and I appreciate those comments. And then we'll go with member closing comments. So just to inform our newest member, what we do is we just kind of go around the table and anyone can comment on what they wanted to say. It's not a Q&A. We don't go back and forth. We're not supposed to. I discourage that. So yeah, we can start with Brian, if you will.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I don't have anything. I said everything I was supposed to say. I'm really happy that certainly the trail, that's a biggie. It's good to hear. And otherwise, good meeting. And Scott, I'll get together with you after the meeting, figure out when it's good for me to come by you.
So then I go. Okay. Just wanted to say thank you to everybody for, this was a great meeting. I'm looking forward to getting involved and happy for the opportunity.
We're happy to have you. Mr. Chair.
Scott, I'm glad you're gonna cook burgers and hot dogs again at the.
It's his favorite.
Not turn to the ketchup brand you choose, but
Where's he doing this at?
Concessions, Oval Beach.
Oh.
He's happy to use it.
Thanks,
Scott
Chief.
his beard net.
I'm excited about working again with the grade elementary school kids at the airport, because I was with them last year climbing up Mount Baldhead, pulling whatever we pulled.
Asian bitters.
And they were engaged and they dug it. They were like, what's this plant? What's this plant? And a lot of them had these iPhones, and a couple of them had the identify plant species. So not only were they actually looking at the invasives, but they're like, hey, what's this thing over here? So it's, I mean, not much was flowering at that time, but you can still identify a plant by its leaves. So that was super fun. And I think we're doing good work here. I think that we've accomplished a lot, and I think that we'll accomplish more. So
Thank you. Member Kimball?
Just excellent meeting. And Brian, I was excited to hear some of your thoughts, and I'd be happy to help you out with any of those things, and Keith, you as well, if we wanted to try to push forward on the invasives. And I think you can also always think about the opposite of invasives is natives. And what do we want to do to promote those?
Great idea. Yeah. Especially where Baldhead is concerned too, getting that up there. So yeah, so I'll go. I want to first say thanks always to the DPW. It's been a long summer. You guys done excellent work, and it's easy to overlook things that just run smoothly, but excellent work there. Thanks to our PPW for all of your efforts in that, and even Member Roach, who's not here to bring the 8th grade project. I'm excited for it. I'm going to volunteer. I want to get out there, and yeah, I think these kids these days and their fancy computers, they're going to figure out stuff that we're just learning about. So I'm excited for that too. And thank you for I did attend the Blue Star Gala, and several of us were there. It was a fun event. Great. I'm so enthused to hear that you wasted $100,000. Is amazing. That's a wonderful night. Appreciate that and your efforts. I know it's not for nothing. It's a lot. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
motion.
Motion chair, can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned.
Scott, thank the
All right, let me have it. What's the real? No.